Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Robin Wauters. I'm a recovering technology journalist. I'm here in Wintercircus Ghent, having a very, very interesting conversation with the co-founder and CTO of Timefold, Geoffrey De Smet. Aside from being a co-founder and CTO of Timefold, what more can you tell me about yourself?
I was born and raised in Ghent. I live here with my darling wife and two kids, two darling daughters. And I've been a developer for the last 20 years and have been involved in open source a lot, and also, of course, in planning technologies.
Planning technologies is what we're going to talk about today. Timefold is a very young company, but there's been a whole journey leading up to the creation of the company. Tell us more about that journey, the background of the company, the origin story, if you will.
Yeah. So 18 years ago, I figured I could combine two technologies to solve planning problems better. And I did that in my spare time, and I started tweaking on that and improving that open source project that I built. Wasn't anything serious back then, but I had time. My wife was still studying at the time, so I just kept improving it. Over the years, I entered in academic competitions where we needed to solve a particular problem, like assigning lessons to teachers or assigning employees to shifts and things like that. And my technology actually showed a lot of promise. I was actually in the top 5 out of 200 contesters and things like that. So I kept improving it. And at some point, people started using it in the wild. Even I remember back in 2010, there was a case where a NASA supplier was actually using it. So that really made my day back then. It was just a lot of fun. And then in 2010, I joined Red Hat, who had seen my work. I was doing this as an incubator project on a Red Hat project. And they hired me for another project. And 3 years later, they actually saw, okay, we have potential prospects who want to buy support on this, who are using this in production. And so we actually made it a product, a supported product within Red Hat in 2013, and we called it OptaPlanner. And then for the next 9 years, I built out a team at Red Hat, and we made the project mature and real and production grade. And when IBM acquired Red Hat, we continued doing that.
Yeah, that's also when you saw the real potential of what this type of technology could mean for the world and for businesses. But then you're sort of a hardcore open source developer. It's not natural for most of that type of people to actually start companies and to build scale-ups. How difficult was it for you to go through that journey?
Yeah, it's not an easy journey. So I always figured as a project lead, I had to do I was very much involved in the development of the code, in helping customers or users use it, and doing some sort of free marketing, right? Community marketing, and showing how we could use it for things. And I figured, how much different would it be to build a company except for the whole sales things, right? So luckily I found Martin, my co-founder, and I figured the only thing we need is sales, right? And he said, yes, I can do sales. But of course, there's a lot more to building a company, I can tell you. There's organization, there's building a team, there's funding, there's administration, of course, and then there's 100 things you don't think about, like go-to-market and product fit, which I didn't know anything about at the time, right? So I can definitely tell you, if you're an open source developer and you want to say, I have this great project and you want to build a company, make sure you have somebody with the experience to help you do that. It is definitely a journey, right?
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah. Going back to OptaPlanner just for a second, how did the community actually react to the fork and the plans that you had to Timefold? I know you lined them out quite well online, you engaged with the community a lot, but now looking back, how was that sort of transition for the project?
That went actually very smoothly. So we already saw that. So OptaPlanner was already in as they call in sustaining mode, right? And so when we rebooted it with Timefold, what we saw is that we have a clear migration path. It's a single line to go from the old code to the new code, right? And so that makes it very easy to upgrade. We did get some questions around the fact that we are now offering some proprietary extensions on top of it. But beyond that, most people were just happy that the project continued. Even within a project within Red Hat that said, okay, for example, we are fully supported in Code.Quarkus as well as in other projects such as Spring.
Yeah. Let's get a bit less technical for a moment. How do you explain Timefold solutions to, say, your mom? Like, how do you make it tangible?
Yeah, we solve planning problems such as, for example, sending field service technicians to locations across the country to, for example, install cable at people's houses, or fix the do plumbing work, or deliver items and things like that. We also do shift scheduling, assigning nurses or security guards to shifts and making sure that's the best possible shift they can do and things like that. But if you actually think about it, the world is full of planning problems, right? The nicest example, if you walk into an airport and you just walk in, you probably see an escalator there. That escalator needs maintenance, and depending on how often it's used, it will need to maintenance every 6 weeks or every 3 months, but that thing needs maintenance. And so you need to send an engineer to do maintenance there. You continue that path, you see, you check in your luggage, there's people there, that's shift scheduling. You look at where your flight's going to, the flights, that's also a planning problem. Where does the flight start? Where does it end? And at which times the flights? You continue through security, another shift scheduling problem with interesting constraints, like you always need to have a male and a female present there for frisk searches. You go to the gates, that's a gate scheduling problem. You go into the airplane, and then you have the flight crew there, the stewards, the pilots, and that's also a shift scheduling problem with a twist, because when you fly them to the other side of the world, their next shift needs to start there. Right. And here's the thing. That was the case for an airport, but you walk into a train station, you walk into a factory, and you will see 10 and 20 of these kinds of planning problems again. Planning problems are hidden in plain sight. It's that simple.
And they're everywhere, right? They're not restricted to geography or industry. They're basically everywhere.
Yes.
But it also means that those problems can be different,
yes.
And they can be different in scale as well.
Yes.
So how do you build something that basically works for anyone?
Yes, that's a very good question. So every prospect I talk to thinks that their planning problem is unique, right? And for the first hundreds of these kinds of cases I talked to, it was pretty much unique. I've never seen it before. But these days, it's very rare that I encounter a new planning problem. So there's a few major ones, like any form of field service routing, last mile delivery, job shop scheduling, shift scheduling, and so forth, event scheduling. Those are all pretty standardized. Yes, everyone has their own few, they think, unique constraints, but once you have a critical mass of number of constraints in your planning problem, like for example in field service routing, we have over 40 different constraints that we support, you will find that most prospects are actually just need a subset of those. And it's rare you come up with a new prospect that says, okay, I have one extra constraint that needs to be added. If that's the case, we simply add it, and there you go. And a week later, they have their planning problem solved. This kind of technology is ready to be commoditized, to be, ready made to just, and right now that doesn't exist in the world. And that's what we're doing. That's the big difference we're doing. Instead of giving you a bunch of Lego bricks to a solver to build your own, to solve your own custom planning problem, you can still do that with our open source solver. I have fun with that, and we still do that we'll help you that for big cases. But it's much more interesting to take our off-the-shelf model and use that directly, because you will have all of the knowledge of 20 years of experience on how to solve this problem as optimally, as best as possible, with a whole bunch of weights in there, and you can just tweak what you need.
Yeah, and that's also why you're referring to it as a platform,
yes,
rather than technology. You're on the verge of launching as a new platform in beta. How excited are you? What can users expect?
Yeah.
What do you hope they get out of it? Walk us through it.
Yeah. So basically, you send us your data, and we send you back the solution that gives you, for example, the shortest path with the least amount of constraints, broken hard or soft constraints. So what does that mean in practice? You send us a list of vehicles with a list of drivers, right? And the drivers have a specific skill, right? And then you send us a list of visits, which might have time windows, like you can only deliver or visit that particular location in the afternoon, not in the morning, right? And we will match up the visits to those drivers, and we'll find routes for each of the vehicles to do that in the shortest possible thing. What we typically see is we see a reduction of 25% less driving time versus other solutions. That means human planners doing this. It also means other implementations, typical greedy algorithms, traditional algorithms, in-house algorithms like that. And you give us your data, we solve it, you get back the solution. And that's how simple we make it. And this is not just for the field service routing problem, which is a vehicle routing problem, but also for shift scheduling, assigning security guards or nurses or anybody who doesn't work 9 to 5 to shifts and so forth.
Nice. So exciting times for the launch of the platform. Now you're building a solid team around this. You've raised funding. You're now moved into the Winter Circus. What's next for you? Like in terms of you've been building this, I feel, for a very long time.
Yeah.
What excites you most about what comes next, like next 6 months to 5 years, let's say?
More planning models. So right now we have two. We have the field service routing and the employee scheduling model. We're building one around job shop scheduling as we speak, and one around last mile delivery and pickup and delivery. And like I said, the world is full of planning problems, and some of these are quite easy to solve for us then, of course, with our technology, like spend a month, 2 months building the model. But some of these are very, very complex, and these are the exciting ones when you have to go into like a factory and you have to assign not just people, but also material and tools, and it all needs to harmonize perfectly. It's and right now that's all being done manually, right? In Excel or in one paper or maybe in an app if they're lucky. But even in the app, they just drag things around. While with our technology, we can just deliver a much better solution, which is good for the company financially, which is good for the employees because you get, for example, for shift scheduling, you get the shifts you want and not the shifts you don't want. But also, it's also good ecologically. For example, when we reduce the vehicle routes with 25%, you typically also reduce their CO2 emissions by 20 to 23%. And that's just, that excites me.
Yeah. Well, I can feel the passion, and of course you're tackling big problems with technology, and they're very tangible, right? The productivity gains, time saving. So I can relate to that. Final question. I already mentioned we're here in the Winter Circus in Ghent. You've just moved in. What do you hope to get out of the place, the community, the vibe here?
Learning things. So 2 years ago, I didn't know how to start a company whatsoever, right? I didn't know. Well, I thought I knew how to build a platform, but I can tell you we have talent in our team who knows much better than me how to build a platform, right? So it's just, it's talking to people and talking to the ideas that actually, bring the stuff, you don't know what you're missing, right? And that's what I hope to get out of the Winter Circus. And the other thing is, of course, it's just amazing. Winter Circus in Ghent. Ghent is just an amazing place for the startup scene. And I was just lucky to be living here so close to a hub like this.
Great. Well, it sounds like you're very excited about both being at Winter Circus and the next chapter for Timefold. Thank you so much for taking the time, and all the best to the company.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin.